Timeshares. Should you purchase a timeshare from an auction website? Brought to you by the WeOwnTimeshares.com team. Even though the traditional approach of buying a timeshare via a broker remains a very popular option, more and more people are turning towards online auctions. But unfortunately, there are many cases where people end up getting scammed into purchasing timeshares which don't even exist in the first place, or else they end up with a timeshare that is nothing like they expected. Because this seems to be happening to a great number of people, it is something that we want to address and cannot ignore. Understandably, many people do insist on purchasing their timeshares online rather than attending a presentation. They feel more comfortable uh, going online and researching rather than being in front of a pushy salesman, and they don't want to be pressured into making a commitment. Because of this, internet auction websites have become increasingly popular because buyers can effectively avoid salesmen. It's hardly surprising that web auction sites such as eBay.com, bidshares.com, and even redweek.com have chosen to allow people to sell timeshares on their sites. And of course, these auction sites are known to be reliable and safe. Something else that they have going for them is that they don't charge an upfront fee, but instead you're only charged if the sale is successful. When bidding on a timeshare, there are a few points to keep in mind. Try to establish communication with the seller as soon as possible so that you know whether the seller is responding to your quotes or not. If they are, you can get a good idea for how they view your purchase offer. Internet auctions are also not a foolproof way against scams and fraud, so be careful. Above all, keep in mind basic internet safety procedures and possibilities from getting trapped in scams. Having a good attitude going into it will certainly help minimize the chances of being scammed, but of course, even if the seller doesn't respond to your quotes, it doesn't necessarily mean they're being dishonest or anything like that. People are not necessarily good at written communication, so you might want to try phoning them if possible. Something else that you need to remember when you decide to bid on a timeshare is that you need to do your homework, and you want to gather all relevant information about the property that you can. These details, for example, should include the name of the property location, even the number of rooms it has. You should also try to determine the date the property will be available, as well as any maintenance fees that still have to be paid. Whatever you do, don't rush into anything, because even if you miss out, there will be more opportunities for you. You should also try to find out how the seller wants to be paid for the timeshare should you win the auction. Even though there are several payment methods available, and most sellers are relatively flexible, you still need to determine whether the seller has a specific requirement. If the seller avoids giving you a straight answer, you need to be careful. You should also make sure the point. Also, be careful to examine the seller's feedback ratings and past history, because obviously you don't want to be dealing with somebody who has a questionable track record. Another thing to bear in mind is that even if you miss the bid by just a small amount, then you could still contact the seller in order to try and that you are willing to purchase the timeshare if the winning bidder doesn't honor the agreement. Even if the seller goes through, the seller may in fact have additional units for sale that you may be able to get without going to auction. But even if they do, you should never be willing to pay more than the amount you originally bid. Since you're interested in timeshare information and desire to discover more, you must visit a timeshare forum. You should check out WeOwnTimeshares.com, meet and connect with other timeshare owners on this timeshare owners forum and social network. It's free to join. You can set up your own profile in minutes. You can share advice and reviews of different timeshare locations and begin asking questions in the forum today. Visit now, and I'll see you there.